Hi, welcome back to Launch Sequence. I'm Amber. I wanted to talk to you about different career trajectories. I just finished reading a book called Build the Life You Want by Oprah Winfrey and Arthur Brooks. I've read a couple of his books. He wrote From Strength to Strength, and it's about how to find things that you're good at, or how the things that you are good at change as you age, and how to take advantage of it instead of fighting it and mourning it. And I really, really loved that idea. I am looking at my career right now with a new lens. So one of the things that they talked about in that book was, I'm sorry, I love this idea, but one of the things they said is work is love made manifest. And I love that because especially with the things that we do for the people we love, like the homes that we make as homemakers, especially, I feel like the work that we do in our homes, the quotidian things like washing the dishes and doing the laundry, those are love made manifest, right? Like that is us putting our love into action every day to make our homes and our families' lives better, and even our own lives, like even if you're taking care of just you, taking care of you is absolutely work and absolutely worth it. And so putting forth that whole energy of work is love made manifest. I feel like my job, I definitely feel connected to the mission of my job. And while I don't often think in terms of love at work, I do feel like what I do makes a contribution. And one of the things they talked about that in that book was the idea of making sure you recognize the intrinsic rewards with your work, because even if you're well paid, that would be an extrinsic reward. But that satisfaction of being paid for your job, that fades over time, and especially as it feels like less with inflation, or you find out somebody else is paid more, and all of those things, the extrinsic rewards of whatever we're doing, those fade. But if you've got in your mind some of the intrinsic rewards, like, oh, I'm contributing to a cause, or I'm helping a child learn to read and they will have that skill for the rest of their life, those sorts of intrinsic rewards, if you focus on them, you can find more satisfaction in your job, regardless of what it is. Even like he gives the example of a man who really did not like his job. And finally, his wife, after being tired of hearing him complain about it day in, day out, she was like, what are some of the things you do like about going to work? And he's like, well, I really like the drive to and from work, and I like my breaks where I get to talk to people. And she's like, if that's what you love, why don't you be an Uber driver? And he did. He became an Uber driver, and he loved it because he felt like he got to meet people and be a positive influence in their lives and contribute. Like they needed a place to go, he had a service to provide. So whether you're an Uber driver, whether you're a brain surgeon, if you find those intrinsic rewards, it can make your job feel better, is the message in that book, Build the Life You Want. So I loved that part, but the part that I truly felt kind of an aha moment on was when he talked about 4 different career trajectories. So the first one he talks about is the one that we're kind of familiar with and that we grow up thinking about, and that's the linear path. And that's where, like, you take your first job as, in my case, I can't even remember the first job I had because I've done so many, but one of my first big girl jobs, if you will, was as a receptionist at the front desk, answering phones, switching them to the correct people, redirecting that phone line and stuff. And then getting my next job, well, part of that, I also helped prepare like some financial sheets for one of the accounts that was there. In the afternoon, like there were 2 of us that did the front desk. And so like in the morning I would do it, and then in the afternoon I was able to do other things. So I did some financial sheets. And then because I had that experience, then my next job dealt mostly with financial stuff and less with being a receptionist. And you kind of take your next job before you leave your current job, and you just go from job to job, building skills and, hopefully picking something that you enjoy even more. And that's kind of the linear path. Then he gave 3 other models, and one of those is called the steady state model. And this is, I've seen several people, I think a teacher would be a good example of this, where you find a job with a very steady, stable company, and you grow in experience, but you don't necessarily move up or move to a different job over time. You just stay with that job and continue to become more of an expert at it, or become better at dealing with the people you're teaching or whatever it is, but you stay there for your entire career, maybe not at the exact same spot, but more or less. Like maybe you move the school districts, but you more or less stay the same sort of position and level. You just increase in experience and knowledge and become really an expert. And that one, he pointed out, is becoming less and less common. But there are still jobs out there that are great steady state jobs. And if that appeals to you, then that's a great career path. That one doesn't appeal to me. And then the third one he talked about was transitory. And these are people who may be a truck driver one year, and then they quit that and do something completely different, maybe insurance sales, or like they just jump around. They're willing to test their skills, and they have a lot of skills. And they're willing to try things, to have different experiences in life and different adventures. And I think those people are super interesting. But again, that's not the one I identified with. The fourth one is the one I identify with, and that's the spiral career path. That one is more like you start doing one thing, and then you use like you get a great education in something, and then you decide you want to be a stay-at-home parent for a few years and take a break. But when you come back, you go into a slightly different field or a slightly different aspect than you were before. And so it looks sort of chaotic, but you're growing in skills as you move around, and there's kind of a theme behind them that you may not be obvious to other people, may not even be obvious to yourself, but you are using all the skills you get from those jobs, and in the next one, even if they are the soft skills and not necessarily, like in my case, well, I do use the financial skills in my job. So I don't know. Yeah, that's the one I related to the most. And I really appreciated this model because I do feel like I'm exactly as he said. I went and got my first job out of college, and then it looked like I did a 180 because I was working in law firms trying to decide if I wanted to go to law school. And then from there, I decided to do something completely different because it turns out that wasn't for me. And then I went to something different, like I zigzagged, but also took those skills and those experiences when I moved along, and including I stayed home with my kiddos for several years, on and off a couple of times. And I homeschooled my youngest for her kindergarten and first grade. And now we are going to be launching off and homeschooling again for her year next year. And so I feel like I've had a lot of spirals, but that they kind of keep coming back, and those same skills get recycled in a slightly different way. And so the reason I really resonated with that part of the book of talking about work is love made manifest and the career paths. Sorry. The reason that really resonated with me and may resonate with you too is that you're not doing it wrong if you're not going on the traditional linear path, job to job. If you do need to take a break and take a 180 or a 360 even, like whatever you need to do, that's okay. There's more than one way to do this work-life thing we've got going, you know? And obviously I don't need two people I don't know's permission, but it is really cool to hear that I'm not alone and that this is a well-trod path that other people have done and have lived life extremely successfully, even if their path is not the traditional linear career path. So I guess it was just giving me reassurance, and I really, I felt like that was really nice to hear it in the moment. So if you resonate with that and you identify yourself as one of those career models, I would love to hear what it is. And again, those 4 models are linear. That's kind of the traditional one. Then there's steady state. That's like staying at one place and becoming a real expert in that field, but not necessarily moving up the hierarchy. It's kind of a flat, even if your pay continues to increase, like a teacher sort of thing. Although it could be an engineer, there's a lot of careers where that steady state could still apply. Then there's the transitory people, and those are the people who jump around, but not necessarily like in such different fields that, and I feel like the transitory and the spiral, there's, some similarities, but the transitory people, they're the ones who jump around from career to career without it necessarily seeming like there's a rhyme or reason. They're just following their interests and their curiosities, and they tend to be good at a lot of things, and so they tend to be successful in a lot of different areas, and they're just finding which one is the best fit or that a good fit for that time period in their life. And then the spiral one, also there's a lot of career changes, but they kind of build on each other, and you see those same themes come back up again in a different way, like those same skills, they just sort of circle and come back, but maybe at a higher level, like with homeschooling my kiddo in kindergarten and first grade, I will be using those skills again to homeschool her for the next level when we're doing our world schooling. So, and even though I didn't end up going to law school, I ended up using some of that law knowledge and in other things that I've done. So that would be the spiral one, which is the 4th. So linear, steady state, spiral, and what's the 4th one? Transitory. So those are the 4. If you identify with one of those, I would love to hear, especially if it's one of the less traditional ones like me. And yeah, I hope this video was helpful and that you can see yourself in one of these models, and that it gives you, like it did me, kind of the reassurance that I'm not doing it wrong, right? Like my path is actually something that a lot of people go through. My path is, obviously we each go on our own path, but it is not so far outside the norm that I'm breaking new ground and going to receive a lot of resistance per se. It's just different than the traditional. So, all right, I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.